So a few years ago when we initially set out to rebuild this platform, it's a 20-year-old platform that our business was built on, and so we were going to rebuild it from scratch. We didn't just go out and try to choose a new language for the front end. And when we talked about the user interface, the real question around JavaScript was really whether the web platform was the right tech stack to allow us to migrate from a traditional monolithic trading platform to a next generation platform delivered software as a service. And there were 4 reasons that are already on the screen that stood out to us back then, and I think are still proving that it was the right choice to go with JavaScript. So first, there's zero install, at least if the user wants. The fact that users have the choice to access a low latency trading platform without any installation from a browser is a capability that is important to us. We think it really sets us apart in the professional trading platform space and is made possible by JavaScript. The second thing is that it's highly supportable. JavaScript and the web platform have helped break down the barriers between us and the end users. And I think you can talk a lot about supportability, but at the end of the day, when it comes to a user interface, sometimes the thing that empowers supportability the most is how close you are to that end user. And JavaScript has helped us, the web platform has helped us create a software as a service trading platform that has really broken down those barriers, and we're closer to the end user than we've ever been before. Third, our time to market is dramatically lower. We can, and we have, although we don't try to do it often, needed to build something in non-production, test it, deploy it in production, and have it in the hands of hundreds of end users around the world in less than 30 minutes. And that kind of speed from needing to address a need to having it in users' hands is really powered by the underlying technology. And like I said, we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that frequently. But the fact that we can, I think, is proof that the web platform really does empower us in a very unique way to respond to users faster than ever before. And finally, and maybe most importantly, we chose JavaScript because we were betting on the future. We're betting that the web platform's impact in retail and consumer markets could have the same impact in capital markets as well. As the saying goes, and I can never get it right, it's either never bet against JS or always bet on JS, but the sentiment's the same. And certainly a few years into this experiment, those of us at T2 who are working on this feel the same way. The JavaScript experience has not been without some challenges, though. And the biggest one, as Jason was already referring to, is performance. To drive 16 monitors with millions of messages a second in essentially a browser is a challenging thing. But rather than talk about it like we've already said a couple times, we've got a video to share that I hope gives you a sense of what we've been able to achieve.
So what you're seeing now, this is the morning of February 16th, the jobless claims number. So just to level set, every update is a new market data update delivered to the screen. So now we're going to do a slow pan. So this is 16 monitor workstation running a single application from a single computer spread across with separate windows per monitor. Now, 16 monitors isn't really common, but we knew that we had to be able to support it, so this is kind of where we set the bar. I just want to kind of point out the update speeds are the same. This is the same replay that we showed in that first screen, so all these windows are updating as fast as that first one we saw. So this is a slow pan out of the whole workstation. And then just to take a look back, this is the macro. This is a single widget in one of those workspaces. All those numbers updating are actually implied spread markets, so there's numerous instruments updating each one of those numbers. And like I said, it's not a super common use case, but anything less than we would never be able to get a full migration because asking somebody with 16 monitors to stretch a browser across the whole thing and expect that it would perform the way they needed to just wouldn't work.
So I really do think the performance that we've achieved is the most interesting part of this story of us kind of rebuilding from scratch, taking a 20-year business and relaunching it. So we just want to take a couple minutes to talk about the things we've done, and there's no deep secrets here. If you look at these 4 things and you write a lot of JavaScript, you already kind of know what we're doing to get this performance. But there are these 4 things that really gave us that giant leap forward. And by the way, we do typical software optimizations that anyone would do. You run a profiler, you find pain points, you dig into that area of the code and you optimize it. But these 4 things were giant leaps forward for us. Again, we started 4 years ago, went to production 2 years ago, and the Canvas changes, I think, are probably only in the last 18 months. So a lot of this is very recent performance improvements. As production usage increased, our ability to respond and increase performance was required. So the first thing was migrating to Canvas. So when you go in the other room and you see the live demo, everything on that screen is Canvas. So we built a custom grid. We started, and we're kind of inspired by the hypergrid that OpenFin open sourced a while ago. But back when that was first released, it didn't quite fit the way we were doing styling. There were some specific challenges that made it hard to integrate in this application. So we took it and we thought about it and we built a custom grid. It's 100% Canvas. When you put that in a small workspace over one monitor, it wasn't super noticeable. The difference, you could kind of tell that it was better, but it wasn't dramatic. Take that to a browser spread across 4 monitors, and all of a sudden you notice the improvement immediately. So Canvas was a huge leap forward for us. The second one was using a web worker. I saw on Twitter last week or the week before that someone was trying to take a poll, does anyone actually use web workers in production? And I mean, everything you saw is being driven by a web worker. So we use a web worker for all real-time streaming data. So the WebSocket, which connects to the back end, and by the way, it's connecting not up into the cloud, although we leverage a lot of cloud resources for lots of things. Your browser connects directly to the nearest Exchange co-located data center. So we're in about 14 data centers globally by the end of the year. And so you connect directly to a web server that we've built, a custom web server, in that nearest colo. And by pushing all that transmission of data into the web worker, we freed up more resources for rendering, which was kind of that second leap forward. The third was client-side conflation. So between the web worker and the browser process, we added additional conflation. So the custom web server that sits in the Exchange colo can already sense back pressure from the client, and it knows if that web worker is not consuming data fast enough. So it can dynamically adjust conflation rates mid-session. But then we added additional conflation so that if a particular part of the application was slowing down, between the web worker and the browser, we have additional layers of conflation, which again, just created a more fluid and responsive experience for end users. And then the final leap forward is process sharding, and that's really courtesy of the OpenFin container, which allows us to shard the app into separate processes. So that allows us to have a separate rendering thread per window. So in the case of the video you just saw, 16 separate rendering threads for 16 separate monitors, plus a web worker thread running in the background. So we're actually able to spin up 17 separate JavaScript threads in that specific implementation. And being able to push rendering onto its own thread like that was kind of the final leap forward for us to get the kind of performance that you saw. And I think it's unique in what people are building today, not just for JavaScript applications, which I think it's tremendous, but just trading system front ends in general. I think this competes with any native desktop application. So we started this complete front to back, top to bottom rewrite about 4 years ago, and it's been a great journey for a lot of reasons. As you can imagine, a relaunch of a business is a fun and scary thing. But one of the things that's been most exciting is our experience with JavaScript. It's been great for me to experience. I take no credit for it. I get to participate in it as more of an observer, but I'm so proud of the work that the UI development team has done. It has taken many months and lots of long hours and lots of challenging problems to solve, but I think you saw the result in that video. There are a couple of guys here from that dev team, so if you're technical and you want to talk about it further, they'll be over by the screen, so I don't have to answer all the questions, and they can certainly go deeper than I can. Please do come up. I should also say that team does fascinating work, and they're spread thin because we are actively trying to recruit great JavaScript talent. So I might need to talk to Andela later too. But if you or someone you know is someone that TT should be talking to about JavaScript talent, please do come grab me afterwards so we could chat. So thanks to everyone from FinJS. Thanks to all of you for giving us a couple minutes of your time. I'll just wrap up by saying I think the big takeaway I hope you have from the video, from the demo over there, is that if you came tonight wondering if JavaScript could really be a viable solution for a capital markets, high performance trading front end, any kind of intense front end, I hope that what you saw tonight was proof that it can be, and certainly we're believers. Thanks.